You can begin when you're ready, Dr. Aiken.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our presentation this afternoon town hall meeting. We're going to have a short presentation to start, and then we'll take questions after our short presentation. So just to review with you some of the protocol, we'll have the question and answer session that will immediately following this. Dr. O'Black will share the commenting procedures or questioning procedures at that time. And I just ask that you keep your microphones muted during the presentation. So just to outline some of the transition goals for us as we look to this 4-day per week in-person instruction, our goal is to provide the structure and educational services needed for our students at the high school level. We intend to balance the needs. This is one of the biggest challenges that we face, the needs of our students and parents, while also protecting the health and safety of all our students, parents, teachers, staff members in the school district. In addition to that, the third piece that we've talked about from the very beginning of this pandemic is just to ensure the safety and security of our entire school community. And this remains our top priority.
So to begin our presentation tonight, we just wanted to share with you information that we were able to gather from the survey that was issued in February of 2021. And this information was used to help guide the work that we were intending to do relative to transitioning to 4-day instruction. So we had a series of questions on a scale of 1 being not comfortable to 5 being very comfortable. The first question that we posed to families was how comfortable were they with returning their child or children to 4-day-a-week in-person instruction at that time while the county was still in a substantial level of transmission. To the survey, we had roughly 2,692 responses, and you can see there, 1 being not comfortable, we had about 22% or 591 responses. To roughly 46 or 47%, indicating that they were very comfortable, and that was roughly 1,256 responses. The second question that we posed was how comfortable were families with the district deviating from the CDC recommendation of 6 feet of social distancing so that the district could facilitate 4-day-a-week in-person instruction. Again, roughly 702 responses or 26% indicated that they weren't comfortable with that. And we had about 39% of our families, or 1,046 respondents, say that they were comfortable with that. We also wanted to gather information relative to student transportation, particularly with the need to maintain a level of distance on our school buses. And similar to what we've seen throughout the pandemic, roughly 55% of our families indicated that they would need district transportation when the district returns to 4-day-a-week in-person instruction, and about 45% said that they would not need that transportation. And then one of our determinations that we wanted to ask families was if the district, under the conditions that we had shared in the survey, transitioned to 4-day-a-week in-person instruction, what model would they choose for their child? And about 75% of the respondents indicated that they would want their child to attend school 4 days per week, even if the 6 feet of social distancing could not be achieved. And roughly 25% indicated that they would want to remain in or transition to our 100% virtual learning model. So that was important information that we were able to gather from our families that truly helped guide the work of the district in making the recommendation that we did last evening to the Board of School Directors for our secondary schools.
Thank you, Dr. O'Black. One of the questions that we receive often is just why are we transitioning to 4-day instruction at this time? We've received this question obviously for the elementary and the primary students, and now the middle school and high school students as well. We feel very 100% certain that our students, that direct contact with teachers is necessary for age appropriate social interactions. We also recognize that social distancing is still a concern, but we also recognize that we're still going to have a significant portion that will opt for the remote instruction. So class sizes will be slightly smaller than normal, and we'll continue to focus on the mitigation efforts that we've done and the social distancing efforts that we've done up to this point to keep our students and our staff safe. And the final piece is just kind of tied into the first piece too, is we recognize that our students do best in school while engaging with our highly trained and professionally skilled staff. So over the past, I'd say probably since mid-December, we've had the dashboard, and Dr. O'Black's going to talk about the dashboard. But in addition to that, we've had this 14-day trend that we've been following with our active cases in the district. And as you can see right now, we have 13 active cases in the district. Students, we have 6 active cases, and staff, we have 7. So these are numbers that we look at on a daily basis and continue to monitor closely. You can see the slide to the left there gives the numbers of positive cases in the breakdown by school. One of the options that we're going to continue to utilize through the end of the school year, we've had the cohort A and B model with hybrid, where our students were in Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. In addition to that, we've had the cohort C model. We will continue to offer this for the remainder of the school year, recognizing that there could be health concerns or other concerns related to the pandemic where students and families feel more comfortable operating within that cohort C model. This model of instruction has allowed us for flexibility with quarantining and isolation periods. It's also allowed our students to keep in contact with our school district teachers too. So this model has worked for us. Challenging at times, very challenging for our teaching staff. But the reality is in this type of year in the pandemic, having that flexibility has been extremely important. So I also talked a little bit earlier about the mitigation strategies. And up to this point, our custodial and maintenance teams have done a tremendous job of keeping our buildings clean. We've utilized special cleaning days on Wednesdays and weekends. And then also there's a number of work that these mitigation strategies that we take during the school day as well. We've hired a number of part-time custodial help in the district to help throughout the course of the day in the cafeterias, the hallways, the bathrooms. Once again, recognizing the importance of the 6 feet of social distancing in the cafeteria. This remains a requirement, and we will continue to adhere to this. And we're going to talk a little bit more about the cafeterias in just a few minutes here. But that 6 feet of social distancing is extremely important when we can possibly do so to the greatest extent possible.
So just to review on student transportation, when we do transition to 4 days per week, the capacity limits on our school buses will need to increase as we will be bringing more students to school each day. And students will once again share seats. And for the secondary school students, we will have up to 2 students on a seat on each of our school buses throughout the school district.
Okay. So one of the things that we talked a few minutes ago about the cleaning measures that will take place during the 4-day instructional model. These spaces within the school are cleaned daily. The bathrooms, the hallways, classrooms, the cafeteria. As I mentioned just a few minutes ago, we are really looking at these cafeteria, these spaces, and making sure that our students are socially distanced while they're unmasked and eating. I mentioned also the part-time custodial help that's been helping. Throughout this entire process, we've used these electrostatic sprayers, and our custodial staff has been trained. We also use these sprayers on the bus as well, to make sure that these spaces are clean and our students are safe. So one of the important things, as we move into this transition for this 4-day instruction, we recognize the importance of face coverings. And Dr. O'Black and I were meeting earlier today with our secondary principals, and our principals were talking about the importance of face coverings and the importance of having our students wear the mask while they're in school throughout the course of the day, making sure that it's worn correctly up above their nose, covering their face. And this is part of the universal face covering order from the Department of Health. And we will continue to adhere to this face covering mask order. Obviously, when students are eating or drinking in the cafeteria, they are able to take a mask break at that time. And then our teachers also will be giving mask breaks throughout the course of the day too, when it's appropriate. But this is extremely important, and we continue to believe that face coverings will help mitigate the spread of the virus. In each of the presentations that we've given this year, we've used this slide to talk about the importance of the daily symptom screening. And we ask our parents, and I'm not going to read all of Group A and Group B with you, but I think it's just important to continue to check and monitor with your child each day to make sure that they are not experiencing any of these symptoms. We ask that you conduct these daily symptom screenings with your child. And if they are not feeling well or have any of these symptoms, please keep them at home for that day and have them join online remotely. This is obviously extremely important to keep our students, other students, and our staff safe throughout the course of the day. Since the beginning of this pandemic, we've worked very closely with our school nurses. They are our medical professionals on staff, and they've been amazing. We are so thankful and grateful for the work that they've done up to this point. The contact tracing, the communication with families, the communication with staff, students, the administration. Our school nurses have been a tremendous resource for our school district. If you have any questions at all about your child, how he or she is feeling, what's going on, I have any questions about COVID or contact tracing or anything, I ask that you contact your school nurse. Like I said, they've been a tremendous resource for us, and we appreciate the long hours and the extra miles that they've traveled this school year.
When the district transitions the secondary schools back into 4-day-a-week in-person instruction, we will continue to follow the guidelines for cases in schools. We similarly followed them when we were in substantial. We'll continue to follow them while we are in moderate. And specifically to the high school, we will be looking at cases between the ranges of 6 and 10 when we have those active cases within our schools. This week, we did have to close a school down because of a case count within that building. So we are going to continue to follow this. And we do believe that as we bring more children back into our schools, there may be opportunities where we do have to close the schools because of the case counts. So we will be continuing to monitor these cases. And we will be continuing to implement those into the dashboard as cases arise within our secondary schools. The dashboard, as everybody has become familiar with, we do update that in real time when cases are reported to us. We will continue to send emails to all of our families and staff members of the affected buildings. And as I said before, the number of cases will continue to trigger a school closure based on the individual size in the building. It is important to note that we are delineating in our communication now when students were in school during the infectious period. If a child was not in school during the infectious period, they will not be counted in the dashboard, but we will still continue to notify families that it was a positive case. So it is important when we do send those emails that you read the entirety of that email to understand whether or not the case will be reflected within the dashboard.
So just to review the transition timeline, and this is the last slide of the presentation today, but obviously we're in the process of transitioning our elementary and primary school within the last 2 weeks. We have been working through the parent commitment form. Last Friday, the parent commitment form was shared with all of you at the high school and middle school level. And the parent commitment forms are due this Friday, March 19th. Obviously, this is the opportunity we have to engage with all of you with questions. And one other thing that I think that's important too is if we get off this call and you have a question and maybe you don't feel comfortable asking in front of the larger group, don't hesitate to reach out to either myself, Dr. O'Black, one of the high school administrators. Any one of us can help you with the question that you may have. And then as we look forward, right after spring break, Monday, April 5th, we intend to transition our high school students at that time. And we look forward to that date. Obviously, we continue to watch the numbers in Allegheny County and the numbers in the Shale Area School District. As Dr. O'Black said, we've had school closure within the past week. That's always a possibility, as we mentioned, because of the number of students coming back into schools and the contact tracing and all the different positive cases that could occur. But we're going to continue to do everything we can to mitigate those issues and keep our students in school, keep our schools open.
So at this point, we are going to open up the meeting for questions from those participating. If you are able to, please raise your hand by using the reaction tool at the bottom of your screen. And when recognized, if you could please unmute yourself and state your name. Just as a reminder, with all of our town hall meetings, individual questions that are personal in nature, we would just ask that they be directed to your building principal or the appropriate department. So if there are any questions this evening, we will start with Mrs. Smart.
Thank you. This is Pamela Smart. Just two questions I had for you. One was if you choose one option but decide a few weeks later to go to the other direction, what steps need to happen for that? And secondly, it's kind of well known at the high school that there's a number of kids who aren't wearing masks, and what kind of corrective action will take place to those children, because that's scaring some other kids off from attending school. Thank you.
Thanks, Pam. So the first question is, obviously this has been a very challenging year for all of us, and we recognize the importance of consistency. And one of the things that we've emphasized in these town hall meetings is just that if you choose 4-day, then we want to see your children, our students during those 4 days. Obviously, if they're sick or feel like they may have one of the symptoms that we've identified, we expect they would be able to stay. We expect them to stay at home. But we also recognize too that parents may start out and students may feel comfortable transitioning back, and if for some reason they change their mind, there is flexibility within this model. We recognize that there's a lot of different reasons that people could make that decision. So we'd ask you to just contact your school administrator or possibly the school counselor and just communicate the intention to make that transition. That would be helpful. I know this is an extremely delicate and challenging issue for our staff on a daily basis. Students that are committed to Cohort A and Cohort B are not sometimes not coming to school on a daily basis, and that makes it very challenging when they're supposed to be in school and they're not. But we also recognize that there could be other issues at play there. And so I think to summarize my statement is, yes, we want students to be in school and we want them to be here. But if they needed to make that transition back to Cohort C for whatever reason and just didn't feel comfortable in the 4-day model, please contact your school counselor or one of your school principals and communicate that. The second piece is a little bit more of a complex issue, and we've talked about this in the other town hall meetings too. And I think this is a continuous process of educating our students. And I think our high school administrative team, middle school administrative team, all the way down to primary, they've worked very consistently with our staff and with our students on, continuing to wear the mask and wearing them appropriately. If this continues to be an issue, where it's an issue of insubordination, then there is the chance, the possibility that a principal would have to issue a potential consequence. Up to this point, we've tried to use this as a teaching tool and just continuous reminders for students to be respectful of the other people that are in the school, the class, the hallways, school buses. I think that's important to note too, is we expect our students to wear their mask. If they ride the school bus, they are to be masked. If they're in the hallways, they're to be masked. If they're, wherever in the school, they're not eating or drinking at that time, they are to have their mask on. So it's something that we got to continuously work on, Pam, and I think that our high school administrative team will do a great job with this.
Our next question this evening is from Eric's iPad 3.
Hi, this is Megan. I'm just wondering, do you happen to know the percentage of the students and staff that have gotten the vaccine so far or are scheduled to?
Yeah, we aren't aware of the number of students. We don't have that information, but staff, by this April 5th date, when our students come back into school, 100% of our staff will have had the opportunity to be vaccinated. We have a number of staff that are finishing up this Friday and Saturday. We may have a few stragglers that get vaccinated next week. And hopefully by the middle to the end of next week, every staff member that would like to have gotten the vaccination will have it.
Thank you.
Sure. Thanks, Megan.
Our next question this evening is from Amy Brookhart.
Hi, thank you, Amy. My question is, if our children are in a class and one of the students tests positive for COVID, what are the rules of the road for the kids that sit around that child or in that classroom with them? Do they then have to quarantine and stay home, whether they have symptoms or not, or how's that going to be addressed?
Dr. O'Black, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, so Mrs. Brookhart, we will continue to follow the contact tracing parameters that we have followed all through the pandemic. So if a student is within 6 feet for more than 15 minutes to an individual who has tested positive, those students will be required to follow the quarantine guidelines per the Pennsylvania Department of Health. So when we move back to 4-day-a-week instruction, we will continue to adhere to that contact tracing, consult with the Allegheny County Health Department, and follow their guidance. But simply because we're returning does not mean that we will not continue to be contact tracing. So if an individual child meets the criteria for quarantining or has been identified during contact tracing, the school nurses will reach out to the parent and guardian. They will review all of the parameters for quarantining, review the associated timelines for quarantining, and gather any pertinent information that they may need.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Are there any other questions from the audience this evening? Dr. Aiken, I don't see any other hands raised.
So we want to take this opportunity to thank everyone. As I stated at the beginning of the Q&A session, if you have a question that you did not ask today or you think of after the meeting, don't hesitate to reach out to one of us. We'd be happy to talk by phone or email, whatever is most convenient for you. Thank you for taking the time to join us for this meeting today, and we are greatly looking forward to transitioning our students back to more in-person instruction here in the next few weeks. So